Robin? R- Robin? You there, buddy? Oh shit! What am I gonna do now?
Hey.
Ah! Who the fuck are you?
My name's Ashton.
Are you the Ashton Byrne, writer of the Mavericks comic book?
Yeah, that's mine. Where'd you get that?
I bought it from this homeless guy. What the fuck are you doing here? You're not my usual co-host.
I just found my way over here.
Oh, well, you want to do a podcast?
Oh my God, I would love to.
Well, welcome to the Vibe Too Many podcast. I'm your host, KJ Collelo.
Hi, I'm Ashton Byrne.
A-
I do comics. I also like movies.
And now that Robin has escaped to places unbeknownst, I have Ashton filling in as my co-host for the day. How are you doing today, Ash?
Hey. Hi, I'm doing really good. I'm recovering from a cold, but I made it on here because I'm so excited.
God, we're breaking two records on this episode. Every episode, Vibe Too Many is making waves. This is, of course, the first episode with a new co-host. So, congrats to
Oh,
Ash.
yay.
First one without Robin. And this is also the first episode where I'm not drinking anything alcoholic. So a little later on, we're going to talk about a couple animated films, a couple stop motion animated films. Both came out in the same year, 2020, 2022, not 2020. Wendell and Wild, directed by Henry Selick, and Pinocchio, Guillermo del Toro's version. Because I guess on every episode of this podcast, I'm going to bring up Guillermo del Toro, and I am more than satisfied with that.
Any excuse to bring up his work.
But before we talk about these two films, kind of wanted to talk to Ashton as as he has previously mentioned, a comic book artist. I kind of wanted to talk about what you got going on. I saw right as I went to send you the Zoom link that you have a piece of artwork up. So why don't you talk about that first?
Okay, yeah. So my work is up at the Greater Denton Arts Council in Denton, Texas, for their Punk Love show that they have going on. My work is up alongside a bunch of different artists over there from around the country. They have a lot of really cool work, so if you're in the area, definitely check it out. I have Valentine's cards that are over there. So please feel free to take one. My work is titled Not All Gays Stay Buried. Um, it is a play on the bury your gays trope in media, where when there's obviously gay people in love, often they're written to be killed off. Um, but in this piece, they come back to life and they're lesbians. Definitely check it out. Denton, Texas, Greater Denton Arts Council, the people there. This is my first ever like time being in exhibition, and the people were like so like super nice and helpful, like figuring out like how to ship my stuff because I'm based in New Jersey, shipping it down to Texas, and they were so nice. They're such cool people. Definitely check out just like the venue, all the people that whose work are up there, all the people organizing this event. On February 12th, they're having the opening show, the opening reception for Punk Love. There's gonna be snacks and a bunch of stuff and people talking about artwork and Punk Love.
And yeah, it looks so cool. I love it so much.
Thank you. Like I'm so happy that like not only like my first exhibition show, but like that it's there of all places because they're really good people.
And yeah, what a fucking topic, Ash, you know me quite well. How much you add punk rock to something, and I'm like, hell yeah. Yeah, we also, I bought it out before in our cutesy little opening, but I also, have obviously you sent it to me, your comic book Mavericks, which I was so stoked to read.
So Mavericks is a semi-autobiographical comic series I'm working on. I have the first chapter out. It's available to read for free on my Substack. It's a semi-autobiographical comic series involving cults and superheroes, and basically these people that are kind of caught in the middle trying to figure out their identity throughout all of this. Um, and also evil piece of shit mega church pastors who take advantage of people.
One of the things Ash and I first like started to bond over when we had first met was comic books. We both have like a shared love of comic books. For all the comic books I've read, and I think I've told you this, Ash, and I don't know if I really have. Uh, you have one of my favorite comic book panels of all time.
Really?
This this one right here, the action figure box, I think is one of the coolest fucking visual representations for what you're going for in this. And that panel, since I first read it, has like stuck out to me as like, God, that is such a fucking cool metaphor.
You know, the mirror is obviously like the classic way to like get through like what they're trying to say about like identity and how we perceive ourselves and our gender. And I did it too because like it works. It's yeah, it gets the point across, but I think like the action figure was like also just like how it's kind of like you're putting it on for like on this thing for like other people, but like is it feel authentic or does it feel like something for other, like does it feel like something that like more so you're doing it for other people, and the
Right.
more you learn about yourself it's like this isn't really me, this is a figure I put on to feel more comfortable in a world that might not be as accepting, but there are spaces that we will learn in the upcoming chapters
It's
that
not
I'm
all
no longer
misery.
sick. It's not all misery. That's the point. There's upcoming chapters. It's not all misery that I'm working on. Once I get over this cold, you will see there are places in this world that are very accepting of these superpowered people, even though there are people that tell you do not listen to the superhuman agenda, but you should listen to it because it's awesome and we will see that it's awesome.
Going more so on that like action figure metaphor, if I could, put some armchair psychology into it too. Uh, it's this like almost dehumanization thing of trying to act the way you're told you have to act. You know,
Oh
fit
my God. Yeah.
fit into the norms you've been told you have to follow it. And I think having, yourself in this box
Yes. Literally
for a
put in a box.
toy, yeah, is
Yeah.
such a I've already been singing the praises the whole time, but it's such like a cool and interesting way to show it, where you also immediately get what you're talking about on that. You were selling this at a like panel at a convention, weren't you?
I was selling that at the Rochester Independent Comics Expo up in upstate New York.
Right. I something that one of my favorite things to do is I go to horror conventions all the time. And if you check my Instagram, you see I have stuff like all around me from all of these conventions. In fact, right behind my camera, I have my copy of The Terminator signed by Michael Biehn. And I've always wanted to like work those because some of the artists, like the independent artists that are there, are some of the coolest fucking people I've met. So why don't you tell me what it was like working one of those conventions, living something I would love to do?
Um, it's it's really fun. Um, and you're right, they are like just like every the Rochester Independent Comics Expo for the past 2 years I've been going. Um, and the people that work those, like the people that I'm tabling next to, like they're always like some of the nicest people you'll meet. Some of the most passionate people, like that's where like because it's all people like it's all self-published for the independent comics expos. They're all self-publishing their own stuff. They're all writing their own stuff. Like they're doing it for like the love of the game. Like they do it because they love to do it. They love to talk about art and comics, and they like they're just some of like the coolest people you'll ever meet. Some of the most inspiring people you'll ever meet. Because I've been to like like bigger conventions, like New York Comic
Yeah.
Con. My dad's like obsessed with New York Comic Con. But I feel like I don't, not to sound like pretentious, but it's like it's not really about comics anymore.
Yeah, it's
Like
I
it as much as I love like movies
yeah.
and TV shows, it's just not really about like the comics. But this is these are events like for the artists.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of the cool thing with like these smaller conventions versus something like New York Comic Con. How about we start getting into our main topic of today?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so in 2022, wind the clock back, it's been 4 years. Two stop motion animated films came out that dealt with themes of death and grief. And it was so interesting to see how they both handled them and like their differences and similarities. Starting off with what I believe came out first. Hopefully, I'm not wrong in that. Wendell and Wild, directed by Henry Selick. It is this movie about a young girl who loses her parents and makes a deal with two demons in order to bring them back. Meanwhile, the demons have alternative things. And
Yes.
we were talking a little bit before we were recording. This movie is just so fucking incredible on so many levels.
It is very, very good. It's just from like the soundtrack, the visuals are like
Yeah,
this is
Henry
just like a
Selick.
beautiful movie.
Henry Selick does not miss on visuals.
He does
I
not.
mean,
He's very, very talented.
for those of you out there who don't know, Henry Selick, the director of Coraline, James the Giant Peach, and Nightmare Before Christmas, before this,
And Monkey Bone.
and Monkey Bone, everything in the movie, all of its themes, all of its characters and stuff like that, I think are just so fucking brilliantly executed.
I feel like it delves into like it doesn't like treat I feel like it is aimed at a younger audience, but I really appreciate that it's not treating its audience like they're stupid. Because it doesn't just reduce grief to like, oh well, you're sad, but then the power of friendship defeats it. It's like, no, well, it talks about like how these systems in real life take advantage of people who are grieving and going through issues like the private prison system, how that's like people like profit off of like other people's like pain and like their when
Misfortune
they're
and
misfortune, and like they keep them in that place to keep make it harder for them to like better themselves in order to keep making money off of it. And it's like having these like really mature conversations. Like literally the final battle is them like preventing a private
mm-hmm,
prison system from like taking down this like once beloved and prosperous small business from being like demolished. And like they're literally like throwing like a protest in order, and they win, and in
mm-hmm.
order, and they organize and they win in order to prevent this private prison from being put up in a kids movie.
Yeah, it is. It is one of our favorite things to talk about here on anything of Vibe Too Many related is the death of capitalism and how much we hate it. It's kind of like two pronged the things it's talking about, and it handles both brilliantly. It is partially a story about grief and guilt and overcoming your own personal demons in order to accept things that you can't change.
It's not only just like, well, it is like definitely like obviously she literally has like two demons.
Yeah, and
Like
it
literally
is
the opening
personified.
line is my demons have names.
Uh huh.
But it's also like how she sort of how these problems with like her demons, she also like hardens like she pushes people away
Yeah,
essentially, which also happens we'll get to later in Pinocchio, where it's like grief tends to make it where like
it's isolating.
you want you want to isolate. It tells you you want to isolate.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's what you need, but like grief lies to you. You know, she sort of has to find out the hard way that like these people in her life, like there's people that do care about her. And it's like, yeah, she was like sort of with the character Raul. Like Raul helps bring back her parents. She thought her demons brought back her parents to meet one last
Yeah,
time. No, it was Raul.
it was
And
her
they
own
and her
support
parents tell her
group.
like it was Raul. Raul's a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
And Raul like because her and Raul are the only people at that school that are kind of like different. They sort of bond over that. He's willing to like stick it out with her through like her grieving because like he cares about her because he knows that like they share like these similarities and he knows that she's like going through a lot right now and he's willing to like be there with her.
Yeah,
And it's really cool to see that like breaking down that like inner feeling of like self-isolation when you're grieving. You know, that like yes, like the people that I love like are lost. Not only like not blaming herself, but also accepting other people into her life. That it's not like because of her that they died. It's like unfortunately a part of life is also death. She meets people to that like yeah, her parents are gone, but like also she's met all these incredible, amazing people to surround her life with,
yeah, A-
including her demons.
yeah, and
and and,
that's
and she doesn't kill them, she
no,
doesn't get rid of them, she embraces them, she has to. And I feel like that's another thing where it's like grief goes away, it's always a part of you,
yeah,
and it's like she always has them with them, but she like learns to live with them.
full stop. The Wendell and Wild, her demons, become by the end of the movie co-protagonists with her.
Yeah,
A
they're
hundred
never
percent.
really like villains.
They're never really against her wishes. They're kind of, and this is probably works on an allegory of itself. They're kind of self-serving
Yes.
until they realize that working together, like working with all these people, accomplishes their goals. And then when you get back to this grief allegory, there's a literal scene where she fights what her demons have made her. This
Oh my,
hardened,
beautifully
violent, and
animated scene,
this
by the way.
beautiful scene with a shadow up against the wall, where she, literally shadow boxing,
And
uh,
and the her chest is like the
is
car
the
that her
car of the
parents were
accident.
driving in.
And
Until eventually it's just her, like the face and the car.
yeah,
And that's all that's left.
and as she's defeating this thing that she has become, the personification of all of her anger, she busts through it and finds that it's not self-hate or anger that drives this, it's loneliness and isolation and misery that deep down under this angry hateful surface is just a scared child, which
Yeah.
which I think is fucking utterly brilliant to that, because she hates herself for something that really she couldn't control, that happened when she was a young kid. And when you're on the outside looking in of that, if this was to happen to like a friend, not even just in a fictional tale, but if it was to happen to a friend, it's so easy to look at them and be like, yo, it's not your fault. But when you are living through it, when you are personally going through it, that part of your brain shuts off. These barriers of anger and this, rough exterior and pushing everyone away doesn't come necessarily from this place of like anger and hatred. It comes from grief. It comes from sadness. It's
Yes.
kind of the how the angriest people, they're usually just these lonely, sad people that don't know how to deal with themselves. And then when you go back and look at some of the grief parts here, she has this terrible grief over an accident that killed her parents at a young age, and it's she kind of lives out everyone who's lost their parents' dreams. She gets to meet them again,
Yes.
and she's finally able to get this closure. But it's not like the movie is like, oh, and they all lived happily ever. No, the parents have this limited shelf life, and that's okay. And that's kind of one of the beautiful parts of it, is it's not saying, it's not trying to make this message about grief, but then everything turns out, exactly how we all wish it did. The parents still die, you know,
Yeah.
but she learns that she doesn't need to hold on to them so hard.
I also like because she's like this movie revolves around her,
Mm-hmm.
sort of this whole like everyone, this whole community that surrounded her parents and this business that like eventually like it caught fire because the
It was lit
people
on
that own
fire.
the private prison. It was
Yeah.
literally lit on fire because people in the private prison want to take advantage of it, burn it down so they could have the property and, like the whole plot. But sort of this whole community that surrounded them is also grieving. It's like literally Raul's mom, like she says how like all of her friends died. Like, late stage capitalism sets in on this town. Fascism sets into this town and sort of it goes from being like all bright colors and lively and people walking the streets and then afterwards it's just like dead because it's like expecting people to operate in a way that people aren't supposed to operate, be unemotional, only think about what you bring to capitalism. Because, when you're grieving, you can't work
Yeah.
and you can't bring capital.
You are only the commodities you make. And I actually do think that is a great segue into the second part I wanted to talk about with Wendell and Wild, which is
Yes.
obviously you have this whole beautiful story about grief, and then you have this whole story about late stage capitalism. The entire movie
Mm-hmm.
revolves around what I believe to be the most evil thing humanity has ever created, and that is private prisons. Like, just that
Yes.
word, that compound, those two words there, is the most evil thing I can think of. The villains of this, the primary villains,
On
more
a
so than the literal demons, are
yes.
just two people who build private prisons.
And they're not remorseful about it at
No,
all.
they're
They're
glad.
not people.
They're proud.
Literally.
They break it down where the entire goal is to have all of these at-risk youth, including Kat, the main character, who had lost her parents, who had been sent to juvenile hall because of an accident that happened when she was being bullied, to make sure that she cannot rise above her station and that this will always be her, so that they can literally funnel her into their private prisons, which is
Yeah.
a real fucking thing.
There are people living through this.
That is the actual goal of, like, they even touch on it in the latest season of The Boys, but the goal of these private prisons is to set people who are inherently disenfranchised, whether it be due to the color of their skin, their financial status, their, immigration status. The entire goal is to set them up to fail, because every person whose life they strip away is more money for them.
And that's what makes, the demons that we see Wendell and Wild, ironically, are more human than the people that own this prison.
100%. In fact, their entire goal of the movie, Wendell and Wild's goal of the movie, is their father, Belzer.
They want to make him a better hell.
They want to make,
for people,
no matter what your life is, they want everyone to have a good time. It shouldn't matter what your status was. You should be able to experience all of these good things. It's directly the opposite of the fucking private prisons.
I feel like it's also, it doesn't literally state it, but I feel like there's always this underlying theme of like Christianity. Because I feel like with these private prisons, there is sort of this idea based on Christianity where it's like, some people deserve to be eternally punished.
Yeah.
Some people deserve eternal punishment.
It's a very Old Testament way of thinking.
Yes.
The way they're able to overcome this in the end is not only through protest, which they protest, it is through direct action protest.
Yes.
They go out of their way to stop the people driving the tractors into the brewery.
Yes, they form a mob and they organize and they literally, they sit 2 feet on the ground and they stop them.
They don't, to get into some real life shit, they don't send strongly worded letters. They fucking stop
Because
them.
the strongly worded letter, because, oh my God.
It's a suggestion.
They also show, like, they literally, the people that own the prison take advantage of the system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whenever you think, this is kind of the way I feel whenever, I hear the term like strongly worded letter, or, oh, we're going to have a march for this, that, or the other thing. And it goes perfectly with this movie. The people in power didn't strip away rights because we forgot to ask for them. So just being like, hey, give it back, that doesn't really accomplish much. And you see it in
I
this
feel like it
movie.
operates on the idea that like the system is broken and it needs to be fixed. But like, no, it's not
Hey,
broken, unfortunately. It's literally designed this way.
yes,
It's working as it's designed.
exactly. And they, the powerful part about this part of the movie is Kat, her parent, all of our main characters are able to take people from the same community but from different backgrounds. They take, you know, Raul, they take Shaban, who is literally the daughter of these prison moguls.
Yes.
She's not like, she didn't grow up with the same, but they all have this common goal. They're able to rally their community. They are literally driving bulldozers into each other so that they're
Yeah.
not going to take down this landmark to their town.
That was
Yeah,
another thing with like going back to like the themes of like Christianity, how like sort of these institutions like the Catholic girls' school, they're sort of marketed as like these places where you can go and find God and be brought to the light or whatever the fuck. But like no, like the priest literally admits that like he's this is about the money. Like
he's a
she gets full
profiteer.
tuition. He's a profit. Yeah, he's just profiting off of her. Like, and a
Yeah,
lot of places like this Catholic girls' school exists in real life, and it's like
most of the
they're
Catholic
doing this.
schools.
Yes, most of the Catholic school.
You even talked about it in Mavericks. The villain
Yes,
is this evangelical preacher trying to use the moral high ground in order to put down the disenfranchised, which is such an ass backwards way of doing all of this. And then kind of another very interesting thing I found in this, something that you would speak to better than I. They have one of the main characters is a trans man, and it is
yes,
so well handled.
it is. It is. I feel like the coming out story is does have its place in media.
Right.
And I think it is important, especially for like people who are also coming out to have those kinds of stories. Um, I think we do. I like that this movie wasn't just like he was coming out. He was already out.
Yeah.
And there's people that like, obviously Shaban starting off gets his name wrong,
Yeah.
but like she's not like evil because of it. I feel like there's this mistake that like people think that we're going to like instantly think you're evil because like you've got my pronouns wrong one time, but that's not how like the majority of us, like I'm sure there are like some people who like aren't as like understanding, but like ultimately at the end of the day all of our like main things going against all of us is like capitalism.
Yeah.
And that's like Raul being a trans Latino man, and then Kat being like this black punk girl. And Raul's also like an artist too. And she, her art is like music. She has like the boom box.
Mm-hmm.
But Raul also has like the art, and his art ends up calming down Buffalo Belzer
Mm-hmm.
because he sees a mother fighting for her child. And it's like they bond because they're artists and they're kind of people who like don't really fit into the norm, and they like aren't really afraid to show it,
Yeah.
and they kind of bond through that. I do like that they had like that sort of like solidarity with them. I feel like also sometimes with like trans characters, they're like there will be like trans rep, and like I don't want to like gatekeep because like I feel like ultimately at the end of the day there's going to be different things speak to different people, and that's everybody's free to like with if it speaks to them like that's all they're allowed to feel
Yeah.
that. But I kind of like for me personally, I feel like sometimes there'll be like a trans character that's introduced and they're trans and they have like one episode or like like a couple minutes where they're important, and then we just kind of see them in the background for the rest of the time, and that's like the one trans character.
Yeah.
The ones like they don't really do a whole lot. They're just kind of there. Sort of like the Disney always has like this is like
The first
the
gay
eight
character in every.
first gay character they've had like for 8 different times
Yeah.
now. Yeah, kind of like that. But I feel like in this movie he does have like agency.
He does.
Like he's allowed to be like
Mhm.
a huge part of like this story and like he's very like he's important.
This is a movie with a trans main character that's not a tragedy. The trans character isn't
Yes.
tragic.
Yeah.
He's honestly just kind of like a cool dude. I was watching this and I remember like I would have been fucking friends with him in high school.
Where it is like an important part of his identity, but it's
Yeah,
not like
it is
this
important to him.
like
It's not thrown off to the side.
tragedy of it. Yeah.
Um,
He just is allowed to be like a person.
he's allowed to be full, not just
Yes.
you know. Um, I put this on my letterbox, Ash. I don't know if you saw this. This is my favorite soundtrack of all time.
Oh my gosh, such a good soundtrack.
And it is so specific. It is all mainly 80s black-led punk rock bands.
Yes.
And any movie. The opening is the song
Opening is Fishbone.
Ma and Pa by Fishbone.
Yes.
And I have right next to me the Fishbone is Red Hot Sauce. Fishbone is my second favorite band of all time. They're the band I've seen live the most. I have pictures with the front man. And one of the coolest things, do you know how they were able to get Fishbone for this? Besides the fact they're not the biggest band on the planet?
How they get Fishbone?
Before Henry Selick was directing movies, he was directing Fishbone music videos. He directed the music video for Party at Ground Zero and a couple other
I literally
ones.
didn't know that. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
And it is such a good... It speaks to these characters because it was this attitude, but specifically a lot of the bands they used had, they were punk bands, they were anti-establishment, this, that, and the other thing, which the movie is all of these things too. But they were also all about community.
Despite what modern day punk will tell you, this is what punk was built off of, and that's like what like bands like Fishbone, like these bands that are all in this soundtrack that they represented, that they stood for.
I mean, this soundtrack, top to bottom, is fucking brilliant. But I said Fishbone is my second favorite band. The scene where Belzer is coming up from hell.
Cult of Personality.
You hear the opening chords like da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
A good musical. That was a good what's that called? Like a needle drop?
A needle drop, yeah.
The needle drop moment, yeah.
That Living Color that band is Living Color. That is my favorite fucking band of all time. Actually, hold on. I can reach over and... Alright, so Cult of Personality was off of this album right here, Vivid. It is the lead track, if you look right there. It is the lead track on their debut album. I believe this was 88 or 89. I saw them live. I also have on CD, I also have their last album, Shade. And I think, like, Cult of Personality specifically, whenever Living Color gets played, it's always Cult of Personality. That was their biggest hit. That's what CM Punk, the wrestler, walks out to. And I'm always like, oh, come on, they got so much other great songs. I mean, Cult of Personality is
a good song, too.
Cult of Personality is pretty fucking excellent. But, like, when you look at the lyrics of this, it is an entire song about building up a fan base.
Yes.
To the point where you can tell them anything and they'll believe you.
Going back to the themes of Christianity.
And also our current political climate. And it's insane because this song came out in 1989 and it literally calls out everything that's happening. I tell you 1 and 1 makes 3. I'm the Cult of Personality. Like, and then, yeah, to have Belzer walk out on that iconic opening riff by Vernon Reid, who I think is the greatest guitar player ever.
Really good voice acting in that movie, too.
Everyone gets to be... Sometimes when you get actors, like who are more accustomed to live action. People like Ving Rhames and Angela Bassett, who is Sister Helly here. They kind of
Yes.
they treat it like they're acting for the camera, which isn't how you voice act. In this movie, Ving Rhames and everyone in it are playing up so much to be like in the animation format. You kind of have to exaggerate yourself a little more, and it works so. I mean, his booming voice and all of
His
that.
he is incredible as Buffalo
Yeah.
Belzer.
Oh, and obviously we went this entire time talking about this movie. It's Key and Peele as Wendell and Wild.
When Key and Peele, Wendell and Wild are incredible, obviously. You know,
They are
they're
so
such a
much
good
fun, and
duo.
it looks like them.
I love that it looks like them.
Well, that was
I love their voices. They're so good.
it's a Monkey
They have
Paw
like this
production.
little like I don't know, they add something like the voices. It's just like
Yeah.
the way that like they bounce off each other. And they add like that little like snively little demonic little thing to their voices. It's so good.
Yeah, that's Wendell and Wild. A little bit, few months after that, towards the end of the year, 3 movies came out around the same time, all Pinocchio. I don't know why
Yes.
2022 was such a big year for Pinocchio. Which, by the way, the original Disney Pinocchio, I fucking love that movie. I love the story of Pinocchio. And then you had this one that was like Pinocchio, a real story or whatever, that has like Pauly Shore and John Heater in it, and that's where the famous like the father.
Father, I'm leaving to go on my
Yeah,
that one. Okay.
that's laughably terrible. Robert Zemeckis then does this live action version, and I am so adamantly against live action versions of animated films. It's like you're looking at, they did this with The Lion King, and I hear the How to Train Your Dragon movie's good, but
I don't care.
Lilo and Stitch, it's like they look at these movies and be like, wow, these are really good movies. It's a shame they're animated. But yeah, and then so Robert Zemeckis creates this live action one that, like any live action film of an animated film, is, even if you kept all the same lines and the same story, utterly soulless and heartless and redundant. And
Yeah.
then my absolute
Del Toro
fucking guy, this beautiful,
drops.
beautiful fat Mexican guy,
Uh,
releases Pinocchio, a movie I was so excited for because I love Pinocchio and I love Guillermo del Toro. I'm like, wow, I'd love to see it. I have such high expectations. And then the
it
movie
was the
beat
first
the
time.
fucking expectations. He does Pinocchio, and every single thing in Pinocchio, every single element, I think is done to absolute perfection.
Yes.
I mean, this is a movie that I had told Ash right before we recorded. This is my favorite animated film of all time. It has this beautiful style. The voice cast, mainly made up of people who are, live action actors. Ron Perlman, I think, had the most experience in voice work out of the main cast.
He did. He was really good in this movie.
As the Podesta.
Terrifying in this movie.
He's this fucking presence. And
just booming presence.
Del Toro changes, when the book came out, it was a contemporary. Took place in a contemporary time. When the original Disney movie came out, it was contemporary. And a lot of the other versions of Pinocchio have kind of gone back to that time, or even back to, like, further. Del Toro takes this movie and places it in 1940s Italy.
This movie shows Mussolini.
Yeah, he is a fucking character in it. This is
Yes.
a movie similar to Wendell and Wild that isn't necessarily a kid's movie, but can be aimed at a younger audience. That while Wendell and Wild has these brilliant themes and touches it, this is like adult concepts. When I was rewatching the film to talk about it on the podcast, I was almost like, shit, I can't talk about everything I want to talk about here. Because I want to break this movie down scene by every single scene, and I just break down everything that happens to the point where it's, this is a movie about parenthood
I feel
told
like
from
it's
the
also
kid's
the
perspective.
best. I will say, really quickly, best movie I've ever seen about Barnum Bailey. The real
Yeah,
Barnum Bailey,
yeah,
who was a
yeah.
piece of shit.
He was an evil human being. He was
Not that Greatest Showman shit where he was like, oh, he was such a good guy. He's played
flawed
by
but
Hugh
good.
Jackman. He's
Yeah,
hot. No, he's a slime ball, evil fucking fascist. Not literally Barnum Bailey, but it's
it's
Barnum Bailey.
when you first meet Pinocchio, it's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, he moves just like
It's so
he's like
unnatural because he
crawling on
can
the
move.
floor.
He's spider-like. He's crawling around this room.
It's because he doesn't know how to move like a person. Like he's literally been alive for like what, like a couple hours?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to. Where this movie is a movie about parenthood, but told from the child's perspective, because children are so rarely listened to. You look at the original Pinocchio, which again is a movie I love, but it's told through the parenthood part of it is told through Geppetto, not Pinocchio. This is entire movie is Pinocchio trying to live up to Geppetto's former child, Carlo,
Yes.
which is an unfair expectation for any kid to live up to anybody else. And he tries so hard to fight for his father's love. And the other interesting part of this is Geppetto does love Pinocchio, but he doesn't know how to do that with him.
This movie doesn't hold back when I feel like it doesn't expect you to like forgive him for everything he's done.
No.
And it doesn't make excuses for him. David Bradley, I think, is the one who voices
David
Geppetto.
Bradley, yeah.
Yes. His transition from like when in the beginning he's with Carlo to after Carlo dies.
Yeah, that fucking gruff.
That his voice, just the voice work, like you can feel the grief.
He gives so much emotion
in him. Like throughout the whole rest of the movie. Where like even like when he's with Pinocchio, it's just like it's just like his voice. You can hear the grief in him.
And it's the fact that, you know, throughout this entire movie, you see that Geppetto does love Pinocchio, but he's almost making it Pinocchio's problem that he's not his former son. Geppetto is the one that has to learn the lesson. And like, Sebastian J. Cricket, voiced by the fucking great Ewan McGregor in it,
he's also really good in this.
It's the one that points it out, like, Pinocchio taught us all. The child.
The boy loves you for who you are. And then, wouldn't kill you to love him as he is.
And he's this beautiful thing where Pinocchio, yes, learns these lessons, but the lesson he's learning is to be himself. And it's Geppetto and Sebastian Cricket and the world that has to learn how to live with this, you know, this child being himself.
It's this boy where he's trying to figure out who he is in this world. And he's sort of swooped in and taken advantage of by this system that wants to take advantage of, and who wants to use him for money.
Yeah.
Money and propaganda.
It's such this beautiful metaphor that, you know, when you see movies about how hard parenthood is, and parenthood is eminently difficult, I do not mean to take it away, but it is always so parent-centric, which I understand, which I get, which are important to tell. But you sometimes forget that there's this child is an entire human being in its equation. You feel for Geppetto for losing his son. That is one of the most heart-fucking-breaking things to ever happen in any movie ever. You feel for him. And again, this being a movie aimed at a younger audience, they show Geppetto getting drunk.
They don't hold back with, like, how he died with, like, the war and the bomb.
The war killed him.
A war that was being profited off of by people like Mussolini and people in his, like, circle, in his, like, the 1% were definitely profiting off of it. Off of, like, it's like the people driving that plane, they dropped the bomb because they just wanted a lighter load to go back home with.
And then there's this, you know, that story about parenthood and childhood and everything, and then there's the story about war and the fact it is nothing but destructive. I mean, is there a better visual metaphor for war's destruction than dropping a bomb on Jesus Christ?
Not really, yes.
You know, they drop a bomb.
Pretty on the nose.
On Christ. And then when Pinocchio eventually comes to the church for the first time, he sees himself as the Pinocchio is a Christ-like figure in this, and they are doing everything to try to take him down.
Because they say he's not a real Italian boy.
Yeah.
He doesn't fit into like Italian values. As soon as World War II with like the town, it's what once was before the war, this beautiful, you see Geppetto and Carlo walking through this beautiful town full of people, with their shops and their wagons, and they're all full of life, and there's music everywhere, and he's playing music for Carlo, and they're bonding together through music. And as soon as the war hits, the town's just empty. And
war
it's dead.
destroys not only the town physically, but also its soul.
Yes. It breaks down community from happening because these people are so afraid.
There's a great song. It's a very famous song. The song "War" by Edwin Starr, which is the what is it good for?
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. There's a line in it that is, war cannot build life, it can only take it away.
Yeah, and it does that in this movie.
And you see not just the destruction literally, as I just said. I mean, that's there. They drop a bomb on a church, it kills people, it kills innocent. Literally, Carlo is as innocent as you can imagine.
He's a kid.
He's not only a kid, but he's like, if you were to draw the perfect kid, what would he act like? What would he sound? That motherfucker. And a bomb is dropped literally on him. It also shows the destruction of what I said, the soul of people. War is eminently destructive, not only literally, but in a metaphorical sense. I mean, you watch them put gas masks on kids, give them rifles, and send them off.
Yes.
I had just I've read this book 1,000 times, the Kurt Vonnegut book, Slaughterhouse-5, which is vaguely about his time in World War II. It's a very complicated book. It's brilliant. Everyone should read it. But the opening chapter is about him visiting a war buddy to discuss writing the book that he's currently in. It's some fun stuff in there. And he's talking to his old war buddy, and his friend's wife is just mad at him for some reason. And he can't figure out why. Until she eventually says, you're going to write a book, and it's going to prop up war like those John Wayne films. But you guys were just kids. You guys were just babies, and you're going to inspire more babies to go into it. And Vonnegut, he pledges that he will not make a pro-war book. This is a guy who had literally seen, he was a POW, he had watched the bombing of Dresden. Jesus. He says, and for you, so I don't glorify it, I will call it the Children's Crusade. And that's what I thought of when I was watching this scene, when they're literally sending these kids out to die.
I mean, literally, the Podesta says, we want, boys die.
Yeah.
But you don't. And
it's not even that he says you don't, it's that we only have one life to give, you have multiple. As if you
have many.
Inherently should give your life for the country.
Yes.
These kids are maybe double digits in age. Maybe. There is that inherent indoctrination because there's almost this glory of war where he's able to tell Italy's story of, the warmongering that was happening at the time.
They're teaching them that war is so fucking cool to go hang out with. We're going to hang out and we're going to be in war. We're going to learn to be in fucking war because it's awesome. And don't you want to die in war and be brave and shit? And it's like, no, war fucking sucks.
But yeah, in Pinocchio, there's literally the scene where the Podesta hands his son a handgun and tells him to kill Pinocchio.
Fucking kill Pinocchio.
I mean, is that not one of the most heartbreaking things? I'm starting to tear up talking about it.
And he calls his son a coward for not.
Yeah.
He says, "You're no son of mine."
You're no son of mine.
Kill this child.
Your friend, the first person who has shown you decency and humanity, and it was a fucking wooden boy, just because he didn't think you had to be a murderer to be
Please
called
your father.
courageous, you know? And yeah, it's so much of Candlewick and Pinocchio's story is a foil of one another because they're both people trying to please their fathers. But while, Pinocchio's told through war he can please his dad multiple times, Volpe says it to him, the Podesta says it to him, Candlewick says it to him. We know Geppetto's thoughts on war.
War literally took his son
He
away
took
from
his
him.
son. He doesn't want it. Meanwhile, Candlewick, the only way he can win his father's love is by being a soldier. But man, is that a father's love you would want?
By literally dying in war, your father will love you. Yeah, no thanks.
Is that, and obviously when you're a 9-year-old boy or whatever, you would do whatever. But
Yeah, because you're a kid. That's
yeah, you're
you just don't know any.
fighting for your parents' love at that point. Candlewick believes he has to be a soldier in order to be courageous. If he doesn't go to war, he's a coward. But he does the most courageous thing in the whole movie when he stands up to his own father. He says, I will not do this. Even though I am afraid, I am standing up to you.
I've my whole life went I've spent trying to please you.
Yeah.
And I know I'm wrong, and I know you're wrong.
And so, like, you have that, the section about grief, and then
That is a crazy brave thing to say, especially like when you've just turned like double digits.
Yeah, immensely. It is probably the most courageous thing that happens in the movie, where people get eaten by big fish and shit like that.
Yes.
So you have like these two parts of it: the story about childhood and then the story about war, and then you have this excellent story about fascism intertwined with it too, where Pinocchio, the character, not just the movie, but the character, is a perfect example of how one can fall into fascism. He's told that this is the right thing. He's told that if he does all of these things right, his family will love him. From the first time he meets people that aren't Geppetto,
Yes.
they are like, you have to raise him to be a good Italian boy. They use the country as an identity so much. And then he is pointed, the Podesta tells him, this is how you do it. This is how you become a good Italian. So he's like, oh, this is the right thing to do. He's a child. He doesn't understand better. You as a man are supposed to be a soldier. And I mean, when you get into like these gender politics of, the patriarchy creating their own problems in men, these warmongering, angry men, it literally, and this is something that was true to Italy at the time. Italy was called the fatherland. Like, it's kind of in
they
the
say
name
that in this
there.
movie too.
And they do.
The fatherland.
Podesta several times says you have to give your life for the fatherland. I mean, that's fucking literally, it's this entire male-dominated system that was Italy in the 40s, and as well as, United States. It's not just Italy. But they were creating their own problems, and then the people that were creating the problems never really had to deal with it. Obviously, in this movie, the villains get their comeuppance. A bomb literally drops directly on the Podesta.
Yes.
Count Volpe literally falls off a mountain, and it's a pretty brutal scene. Just splats on a rock, and you hear his bones
sound,
break.
the crunch when he falls.
In Texas Chainsaw,
Ooh.
when Leatherface hits the guy in the head with the hammer, and you hear like that
Yes.
crunch, it sounded like that. Pinocchio himself, the character, is a story about how you take a young, innocent life. And I am a true believer in that humans aren't inherently evil or greedy or whatever. It's a learned behavior. So you take this, like, carbon copy of innocent life, and you teach them how to become a warmonger. There's, I mean, literally the on-the-nose scene of Pinocchio, this poor, innocent child, being like, oh, well, I love war more than you, talking to Candlewick, who is also insecure and sensitive. And you're like, no, I love war more,
And his nose doesn't grow because I feel like it goes back to what Sebastian says earlier in the movie, where he's like, well, sometimes, fathers say
In the
things that in
moment.
a moment they think they mean, but then they look back and they're actually lying. And, in Pinocchio in this scene, he's doing sort of similar thing where he thinks in this moment that he's telling the truth,
Yeah.
that he thinks he loves war. But later on in the movie, when he's in the fish, He literally
I
uses, "Oh,
love
I love
war. And
war"
then
to make his nose grow so that they can, escape the fish.
like the final prong, which is the thing that I think ties it most back into Wendell and Wild, is something that Del Toro has always been fascinated with, and that is death.
Yes.
This movie looks at death. I mean, death literally is a character in this
Yes.
movie. And she
Beautifully animated,
oh
by
my
the way.
fucking death and life, the both of them having like the somewhat biblically accurate angel with all the eyes on the wings,
I get more
opening
themes of
up.
like Christianity
Yeah.
with the Jesus statue that gets blown up, and Geppetto, that he didn't finish the statue he was creating for the church because his son died next
Mm-hmm.
to it. The angels of life and death are represented as
Art.
like this biblically accurate like set of like eyes and wings. And sort of this like Old Testament thinking is still within this movie where it's like he's the other and
Mm-hmm.
so we're afraid of him. He goes into the church and he doesn't really understand anything because
But
he's
he sees himself
literally,
in Christ because he also
yes,
is a wooden man.
who also said, "Let the little children come to me." And he's doing exactly that,
Yes.
and they're afraid of him because of that.
And then it is literally Pinocchio being a Christ figure in his death and rebirth. Multiple times over, you could even look at it as Carlo's death and rebirth as Pinocchio. And then
Yes,
the multiple times he dies, including sacrificing himself for Geppetto. And
yes.
I gotta be honest, when I rewatched it for this episode, I was on the train ride back home. Um, I was like choking back tears when I first watched it. I was like streaming down my eyes.
Yes.
And like I know how this ends, but that doesn't stop it. That doesn't
It's
stop
so
the beauty of
sad.
this, and the fact that Sebastian Cricket made this deal for a wish for selfish gains,
Yeah.
but
Purely
through
selfish reasons.
yeah through Pinocchio, when he is asked what his wish is, he doesn't fucking hesitate. It
Immediately.
is immediately bring him back. And like
Yes.
she asked him, "Do you feel you've done your job?" And just by him changing his mind on what his wish would be is proof that he had done his job, that Pinocchio was a good boy. And yes, he makes mistakes, as every
Also,
boy does.
ironically, his wish is fulfilled by making a wish different than that.
Yeah.
Because he wishes to be a wonderful, and it's kind of implied in this book with him narrating, I mean, within this movie, that through narrating the whole movie, that he wrote this story.
It is his story he is telling. Yeah.
Yes. He
Um
becomes the great novelist that he wants to be.
and it was just through meeting this child that just changed everyone for the better. And then when you get to the ending, Geppetto dies, um, Spezzatura dies, Cricket dies, and it's this almost like bittersweet thing where it's like, yes,
Yeah.
they're all dead, and we mourn not the fact they're dead, but the fact that we lost who they were. Jesus Christ, I'm holding back tears right now.
I feel like it's also, he doesn't allow himself to like be defined by their grief.
Yeah,
Whereas like Geppetto was like consumed by the fact that Carlo was died. He couldn't see the people he currently had around him,
he
and
couldn't
he
even
pushed them
see.
away. Pinocchio doesn't push people away. He embraces
Yeah,
other people. He goes into and meets other people in the world where Sebastian says that, he's still out, he's still
meeting
meeting
new
other
people,
people,
and
making new
I like to think
friends.
they accept him. And I think to your point, Geppetto lets his grief consume him so much, and we're all guilty of this,
Yeah.
where he doesn't even focus on the love he had for Carlo. He focuses for the love that is now gone. When somebody leaves, whether it be through death or through whatever circumstance, I like to believe that the love you had for them doesn't go away just because they're not there anymore. That's always a part of
Yes.
you.
Yes.
And I think that when, funerals should be less about being sad that someone's dead, and of course, when someone passes away, that is an infinitely tragic thing. But I think it should be more about remembering the love you have for them. And I say have, not had. Because those little moments are always there. And I feel like that's what hits so hard in the ending. Is yes, you know, Geppetto passes away, but Pinocchio's love for him never changes. Yes, Cricket passes away, but he keeps him in his heart. Like, these people never leave just because they've passed on, you know?
They're still a part of us.
Yeah.
I
And
feel
it,
like that's especially an important message now. So I remember when my mom passed away when I was 16, she would not have wanted to have a funeral where everyone was just sitting there in silence being sad. Um, so I played three of her favorite songs. They and the funeral home said that where my mom's funeral was said it was great because we were the loudest funeral
yeah,
happening in the building. Everyone could hear us, you know, listening to, music during the funeral.
Del Toro, being who he is and from the culture he's from in Mexico, it is much bigger to celebrate the Day of the Dead and everything is a day of remembrance, not a day of necessarily grieving. Um,
Yeah.
I remember I was at a funeral. I want to say it was last year of a loved one of a friend of mine, and obviously that got all of my friend group talking about death and funerals and how we would want to be remembered. And I remember telling my one friend who my buddy James, who's been the man closest to me for the last 20 years now. I told him that and this is true, and I stand by this. I don't want a funeral at all. I don't want like any memorial or anything. None of that is important to me. The exact verbiage I used is you can cremate me, then chuck me out the back door of the crematorium. I don't necessarily want to be mourned in general, but I did tell him, I'm like, because it's you, the only thing I ask is if you are, driving down the road and the Pink Floyd song Wish You Were Here comes on, I just want you to have one good memory of me. That's it. Just whenever that song comes on, just that. The way I always look at death is you miss the person that was there. Ray Bradbury talked about his grandfather passing away and how it's not just the person he misses, it's all of the things he did. He was like, my grandfather was a toy maker, and now those hands will never make a toy again. Like, that's what he missed. And I always looked at it as death is this absolution of all of the struggles we face here. No matter what you believe happens after we die. All of the
Yeah.
the bad stuff that happens here, I like to think of it as that weight off of your shoulders. And I think that's kind of where this ending is so beautiful, is that it's not putting down death as this absolute horrible tragic thing.
The last stop.
Yeah, it is, as long as you're remembered, everything with you will go on long past you're there. And it's handled so beautifully. And it's something Del Toro.
It's about the people that you connected with in life and how they honor you.
And that's kind of been Del Toro's MO for his entire career. I mean, even when you look at stuff like Hellboy. That's my whole rant about death that I had to choke back tears for on this entire time.
It's yeah, especially with Hellboy too, because I feel like after Hellboy's father dies, he's sort of left with this like, who am I now without him?
Yeah.
Similar like how with Carlo, once Carlo
It's
dies,
the
Geppetto's
inverse
like,
there.
who am I now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we have anything else to say about Wendell and Wild and Pinocchio? I mean, we have mounds of things to say besides this, but
there's so much, like, not only do they both deal with like grief, I mean, like, there's the element of music
Yeah,
being involved with like the grieving process.
grieving is a
There's
very artistic process.
It is a very artistic process that's portrayed through these two media, through this medium of animation that's very time consuming. It forces you to sit there and sit with each emotion and process it. And
Yeah.
it's just, yes, and it's visually stunning.
Hmm.
Um, Themes are like Christianity,
And like almost
anti-capitalism, anti-fascism.
so
Yeah,
Ash, today we talked about some really heavy topics,
we
uh,
did.
involving some of our favorite movies. It's been so good having you on. It's been so good hearing from this new perspective and everything. As much as I
Well,
love
thank you for
Robin,
having me.
yeah. So Ash, thanks for coming on and talking about these films with me.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a vibe.
Perhaps too many. I've been KJ Collelo.
Ooh. I'm Ashton Byrne, and this has been Luna. Say hi. Don't be rude. Look, I'll give her treats though. Yeah, now you're interested in saying hi? Well, of course you are. This is why you're 15 pounds. 15 pounds of vibes. Too many.
Bella ciao, folks.
Bella ciao.